Imagine standing alone under a star-filled sky, the desert winds howling around you, when suddenly you find yourself locked in a struggle not with man, but with God Himself. This is not just a tale from Scripture. It is one of the most haunting and mysterious encounters ever told. Who was He? What happens when a mortal dares to wrestle with the divine? Did he truly prevail, or did he lose something far greater in the process? It began in the womb. Scripture tells us that Rebekah, weary from the turmoil inside her, cried out to the Lord, and the Lord answered with a prophecy. 2 nations are in your womb, the older shall serve the younger. Even before his first breath, Jacob's life was entangled in conflict, destiny, and divine mystery. The twins entered the world not as equals, but as symbols. Esau arrived first, ruddy and strong. Yet clinging to his heel was Jacob, the heel grabber. From the beginning, Jacob bore the name of a struggler. Their childhood only deepened the divide. Esau, the hunter of open fields, lived by instinct, chasing wild game with the strength of his arms. Jacob, by contrast, stayed near the tents, a thinker, a schemer, a man of quiet ambition. Favoritism fueled the fire. Isaac loved Esau's venison, while Rebekah favored Jacob. Each meal, each glance, each whispered word became kindling for rivalry. And then came the moment that changed everything. Esau returned home famished, the smell of sweat and dust on him, while Jacob stirred a simple pot of red stew. What began as hunger became transaction. Esau traded away the birthright, his inheritance of leadership, for a single meal. Jacob had seized yet another step forward. Jacob's story takes a sharp and unsettling turn when he steps fully into the role of the trickster. His father, Isaac, now an old man with dimmed eyes and fading strength, senses the nearness of death. Following custom, he calls for Esau, the elder son, to prepare him a meal, so that he might bless him with the words of inheritance and divine favor. It is meant to be sacred, intimate, irreversible. But in the shadows, Rebekah, Jacob's mother, overhears. She has always favored Jacob, sensing perhaps that destiny lay with him rather than the rugged Esau. Her whisper to Jacob is like the striking of flint, quick, dangerous, and impossible to take back. Go, bring 2 young goats. I'll prepare the dish your father loves. You will take it to him, and receive the blessing in Esau's place. Jacob hesitates, not because of conscience, but fear. He knows his father may curse him if caught, yet Rebekah insists, almost as if the divine promise itself depends on their cunning. So, Jacob obeys. The goats are killed, the stew seasoned, and the disguise prepared. Esau's garments draped on Jacob's shoulders, the skins of goats wrapped on his hands and neck to mimic the roughness of his brother's skin. Jacob stepped into the dim tent, carrying the platter, voice trembling as he says, "I am Esau, your firstborn." His words clash with his identity, yet Isaac's blindness makes deception possible. Suspense builds as Isaac reaches out, his hands brushing against the goatskins. The silence stretches. The voice is Jacob's, Isaac murmurs, but the hands are Esau's. Jacob secures a sacred blessing not by merit, but by manipulation. Isaac finally eats, drinks, and speaks the words of inheritance, words that cannot be recalled once given. When Esau later arrives, the bitter reversal strikes like thunder. The elder son, who had hunted honestly, finds the blessing already stolen. His cry is raw, almost animalistic. "Bless me too, Father." But the deed is done. In this moment, Jacob gains what he always desired, but at the cost of trust, family peace, and a lifetime of consequences. The blessing may be his, but so is the shadow of guilt and the looming wrath of his brother. The trickster has won, yet his victory sets him on a path of exile, conflict, and divine reckoning. Jacob left Beersheba under the weight of both triumph and terror. He carried his father's blessing, yes, but also his brother's wrath. Each step away from home was a step into exile, into a story not yet written. Nights fell heavy. The silence of the open country was pierced only by the howl of distant jackals. When Jacob finally stopped to rest, a stone became his pillow. There, in the solitude of his first night as a fugitive, he dreamed. Heaven opened. A stairway reached from earth to sky, and angels moved up and down its steps. At the top stood the Lord himself, speaking promises of land, descendants, and his abiding presence. I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you. Genesis 28:10-15. Jacob awoke trembling, whispering, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He named the place Bethel, house of God, and with that vision burning in his memory, he pressed on toward Haran. But Haran would not be a place of peace. It was a crucible. Jacob was about to taste the bitterness of being tricked. When he met Rachel by the well, hope surged, love at first sight, a rare beauty in the dust of exile. He labored 7 years for her hand, years that passed like days because of his devotion. Yet on the wedding night, under the cover of darkness and veil, Jacob discovered deceit. It was not Rachel he was given, but Leah. The deceiver had been deceived. Jacob, who had pretended to be someone else to gain blessing, now stood face to face with the consequences of disguise. He had won love through work, but received heartbreak through trickery. Still, Jacob endured. He worked another 7 years for Rachel, and more years for flocks. Days turned into decades. His hands grew calloused from labor. His shoulders bent beneath the weight of toil. The once clever schemer began to learn patience, resilience, and the pain of waiting. In the tents of Haran, between quarrels with Laban and the cries of newborn children, Jacob learned what it meant to be both deceiver and deceived, to hunger for blessing, yet find himself broken again and again. Nights at the hearth, he would glance at his growing household, Leah, Rachel, children, servants, and wonder, was this abundance a gift or a chain? Jacob entered Haran as a fugitive, but he would leave as a man transformed, wounded by betrayal, yet strengthened by perseverance. His exile became a mirror. Years had passed. The dust of Haran still clung to Jacob's garments, and the lines of labor carved into his face told of a man no longer the same restless youth who once fled his brother's rage. Yet even after 2 decades of toil, deception, and hard-earned prosperity, one shadow had never left him: Esau. Now, with wives, children, servants, and flocks stretching like a caravan behind him, Jacob turns his face toward Canaan. The land of promise was also the land of reckoning. At first, he does what Jacob has always done: strategize. He sends messengers ahead with careful words. Your servant Jacob is coming. He calculates, divides his people into camps, arranging them like shields against possible slaughter. But news returns that Esau is coming, not alone, but with 400 men. Jacob's chest tightens. 400. Not the embrace of a brother, but the march of an army. Old memories crash over him. The howl of Esau cheated, the burning eyes of hatred, the stolen blessing. That night, in the hush of the desert, Jacob falls to his knees. The schemer becomes the supplicant. His prayer is not polished but trembling, raw. O God of my father Abraham and of Isaac, I am unworthy of all the kindness you have shown me. Save me, I pray, from my brother Esau, for I fear him. The words scrape out of him like a confession, an admission that his strength alone is not enough. By firelight, he prepares gifts, herds upon herds, to send before him like waves of apology. Goats, camels, cattle, donkeys, not just offerings of wealth, but tokens of surrender, peace, a desperate attempt to soften Esau's heart. He orders them forward in droves, his trembling hands arranging them with precision, yet his eyes betraying the terror beneath. Still, when all is done, the night stretches long. He looks at his children sleeping, at Rachel and Leah beside the embers, and he knows the dawn may bring blood. Tomorrow he must face Esau, but tonight he will face God. The camp behind him is hushed, only the faint bells of camels and the breath of children rising in the night. Jacob has sent them all ahead, wives, servants, flocks, everything divided, everything prepared, but his heart still trembles. Alone now, he steps to the river's edge. For years he has schemed, worked, bargained, and prayed. But tonight, strategies are useless. Fear tightens his chest. Esau's shadow presses closer with every hour. In that silence,
God,
Jacob whispers the only words left. "O God of my father Abraham, deliver me." His voice breaks, and then a figure. At first, only a silhouette in the dark, but before Jacob can speak, the stranger lunges. Arms lock, muscles strain, and the two crash into the dust beside the ford. Jacob's heart pounds. Who is this? A thief? An angel? A judgment? The fight rages through the hours. Every move Jacob has ever used, every desperate grip, every cunning twist, now bursts out of him. Yet this opponent meets him at every turn. The night deepens, and sweat pours down his face. Still, Jacob clings, his body screaming with exhaustion. As dawn edges over the horizon, something shifts. The stranger merely touches Jacob's hip, and pain explodes like fire. He collapses, gasping, crippled. Yet even in the dust, he refuses to let go. Through clenched teeth, he groans, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Here, Jacob is no longer the schemer or the runner. Here he becomes only the desperate man, clinging to God himself. The river whispers. The dawn grows brighter, and the stranger speaks with divine weight. "What is your name?" "Jacob," he breathes. "Trickster, heel-grabber, deceiver." "Not any more," the figure declares. "Your name shall be Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed." He asks the stranger for his name, but receives only mystery. The dawn breaks as the figure departs, leaving Jacob alone, yet forever changed. Jacob leans on his staff, gazing at the rising sun. His wound aches, but his soul burns with a new identity. The morning air is thick with anticipation. Jacob limps forward, staff in hand. But ahead lies another reckoning, his brother. The same Esau he deceived, the same Esau who once vowed to kill him. Jacob arranges his family, dividing them carefully, gifts already sent ahead, goats, camels, flocks, a desperate attempt to soften his brother's heart. His lips move in quiet prayer, words carrying both fear and faith. Then, movement on the horizon. Dust rising. 400 men with Esau at the lead. He bows low to the ground, once, twice, 7 times as he approaches, humbling himself in the posture of surrender. The suspense is unbearable. Will Esau strike, or will mercy be found? And then, suddenly, Esau runs. Not with spear in hand, but with arms outstretched. He falls upon Jacob, not in vengeance, but in embrace. Tears stream down both faces, the sound of weeping louder than the noise of soldiers or camels. 2 brothers who had warred since the womb are now holding one another as men reconciled. Jacob, still limping, whispers words of awe. "To see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably. The gifts are refused, the anger dissolved, and the years of bitterness broken in a single embrace. Jacob rises from Esau's embrace, eyes wet, hip aching, yet strangely lighter. The man who once grabbed, deceived, and ran, now limps forward, no longer hiding. From his story, 3 living lessons emerge. Lesson 1. Identity comes through struggle. Take one fear you've been avoiding, name it before God this week, and ask Him to meet you in it. Lesson 2. God's blessing may cost you. Ask yourself, where has God left a holy mark on me? Write down one place of pain that has shaped your faith instead of destroying it. Lesson 3. Reconciliation requires humility. Take one strained relationship in your life. This week, make one small, humble gesture, write, call, or serve, that opens the door for grace. When was the last time you wrestled with God, and what mark did it leave on you? Share your story below, because your struggle may be the very testimony someone else needs.